Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me for this prayerful pause with the pastor, a time to think of something greater than ourselves. It is a rainy, overcast fall day in September here in Rochester, New York. The wind is cool. Must be about in the low, maybe mid-60s right now. And in addition to the rain outside, I have felt the need for rain inside. Almost feeling a little dehydrated, not sure why. My friend's dad is actively dying. Oh, here comes Kitty, maybe. And so I'm thinking of her, and as she wrote this morning, we are actively awaiting for the angels to usher him home. He's a retired American Baptist minister and has touched a lot of lives, especially mine through the birth of his daughter. At any rate, in my inbox today, I had the following reading that I want to share with you. I'm going to excerpt it. It's a little long, and probably this prayerful pause will be a little long reflecting that. I don't know that I need to comment on it much. It's written by a man named Skylar Wilson, Skylar Wilson, who is the founder of Wild Awakenings, a conscious community of change makers dedicated to the thriving of Earth, life, and humanity. I've seen his picture. It looks a little like a young Tom Cruise, in my opinion, but this was his writing for today. And as I say, I'll excerpt parts of it, but it's worth thinking about, I think. I hope. Water is life. Without it, the vast majority, if not all, of life on Earth would not exist. The story of water begins with the birth of the cosmos, when hydrogen gas was created. A little later, about 250 million years, the pregnant bellies of mother stars grew helium from hydrogen while creating oxygen and carbon. These new elemental babies were then released out into the universe as their creators exhaled their final breaths. An image, huh? The first water molecules formed in space about 4.5 billion years later, when hydrogen and oxygen found each other. Around the same time that Earth came into form, barren and lifeless at first, until water found its way home in its constituent elements on meteors. And then came life. Water is therefore aptly associated with birth, fertility, and renewal. It is a way back to our source. It is our origin story. It is the voice of spirit and a map by which to orient ourselves here and now, from the most ancient star ancestors to the creeks gurgling down the mountains behind my home. In part, I am reflecting on renewal, both because I am writing this at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and because of all the devastating floods and hurricanes that have wreaked havoc on so many places around the world over the past month. Water can obviously be as destructive and deadly as it is life-giving. Earth is 71% water. When we humans are born, we are made of approximately the same percentage. We are made in Earth's image, created within Earth's watery imagination, born into life through a series of cosmic processes of explosive passion and grace. As we age, however, the amount of water within our bodies decreases, eventually dropping to as low as 39%. As fat grows in our bodies, water decreases, and we often can become less connected to our cosmic source. As many of us continue to dry out and become distracted and overworked, our superficial identities and roles solidify. Superficial identities and roles. It is so easy to forget our watery beginnings and therefore lose touch with the cosmic and earthly powers that flow through us. As one of the four elements essential to our understanding of life in science, as well as in all of the traditional philosophies from east to west and north to south, water carries the most gravitas. The creation of aqueducts in ancient Greece and Rome contributed to improvements in agriculture and the emergence of the Western mind. Now, I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit. The only way, he says, to pull back the seat of our attention toward the inner waters will be the great shift in consciousness. That's capitalized, great shift. A move from materialism toward connection, where we can access our feelings, our power, our emotions, our moods, intuitions, and dreams in more visceral ways that can guide us toward fluid, effective, and creative activism. And then he goes on to talk about how different modalities increase this shift of consciousness. He talks about the Ayurvedic system in India and Chinese medicine, and then he comes around to talking about Christianity. In a Christian context, water plays a pivotal symbolic role. Contemplate, for example, this quote from the Gospel of John. "He who believes in me, from his innermost being will flow rivers of living water." That's John 7:38. And whoever drinks of the water that I will give him shall never thirst, but the water that I will give him will become in him a well of water springing up to eternal life. That's John 4:14. These concepts of living water and a well of water springing up to eternal life, coming from the innermost being, represents an immediate connection to a living cosmos, a living earth, and a connected humanity. This understanding is also apparent, he says, in the book of Revelation, where it says in Revelation 22:1 and 2, "Then he showed me a river of the water of life, clear as crystal, coming from the throne of God and of the Lamb in the middle of its street. On either side of the river and the tree of life, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations." He asks, is this revelation something that we can use to transform how we see and participate with the river of water of life? The river of the water of life, to heal our connection with the water cycles, the living world, and our humanity. And he goes on to talk about Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching. He says, Matthew Fox describes this process as a mystical awakening and a global religious awakening in his book, The Coming of the Cosmic Christ. The mystical awakening, an awakening to a living cosmology, to a cosmic Christ, Fox writes, alive and vital in all creatures and in all humans. This new birth will cut through all cultures and all religions, and indeed will draw forth the wisdom common to all vital mystical traditions in a global religious awakening. All of humanity and all mystical traditions rely on water as their fundamental and unifying thread. The coming of the cosmic Christ, the Tao, Buddha nature, and you and I are involved in a process of opening fully to water and protecting it for all humans and for our plant and animal relatives. But then, this is the part that really struck me, not that the other didn't. I love everything so far. But he says, what does it mean to become more like water? Perhaps it has to do with holding the space for cleansing, for what we are being asked to dissolve within ourselves and our communities, to be with the pain of loss. As we let go, we are held within water's flow again. This practice of becoming like water may involve wallowing in puddles, sipping water slowly with gratitude, listening to rivers or, I dare say, rainfall, prancing through the rain at midnight or surfing the waves of the ocean with dolphins. It could mean moving to higher ground and to moist landscapes where there's protection from fires and floods. It could mean joining with the Order of the Sacred Earth Community and its network of Earth activists and holding circles and councils that foster deep listening, receptivity, trust, a space to grieve and to find connection. It could mean committing your life to the outpouring of love and service. It could mean writing to mayors and senators or supporting the righteous efforts of the indigenous water protectors. Water represents the connection between an individual soul, our communities, the tree of life, and a collective ecological consciousness born of our cosmic origins. It's the spirit of the universe as it flows through us. Are we learning to swim through the birth canal of this new and ancient understanding in a felt way that's messy and terrifying, exhilarating and purifying? Are we learning to quench our soul's most essential organizing instincts by becoming flexible and receptive like water? Is water guiding us through a rite of passage into the deepest connections with the universe? I think so, he says, and it's time to get wet. Schuyler Wilson, a young man who writes well and synthesizes a lot of knowledge from around the world. The living water. We are called to be the living waters. What does that mean to you? What pictures do you have or images of water? How can we become more fluid in our lives? That's the thought for today. I'll toast to you doing that. Pastor Deb Swift, South Presbyterian Church in Rochester, New York. Thanks for joining me for the Prayerful Pause with the Pastor. We'll see you next time. And until then, God bless. Drink some water. Take care. And bye for now.